I was effectively fired, but soon they realized they screwed up big time. Had no effect. At this point, the manager's friend decided I was the ringleader of the insubordination. That week, I was called into a conference room with HR, the manager's friend, and his boss. They informed me that I was being demoted from operator to dispatcher due to my inability to be a team player, confrontation with the manager, and so on. I replied, "I'm fine with that. After all, it meant less work for the same pay, so I didn't mind." Now, in this position, I had specific functions, and there were those I could not perform. Dispatchers could only relay calls to technicians, but not assign them independently, which used to be my job. My partner at the time was in charge of task escalation and technician training, and he didn't know how to use the call distribution system I used. The next day, I came to work, sat at my desk, and waited for calls to start coming in. But I knew perfectly well that now there was no one to distribute these calls, and no one, including me, would receive anything. About 4 hours later, the newly minted manager walked up to me and asked why I wasn't distributing calls. I politely replied, reminding him that I had been demoted, I couldn't distribute calls, it wasn't part of my duties, and I didn't want to get fired for doing something I wasn't authorized to do. You could see on his face the exact moment it dawned on him that he had screwed up big time. Of course, his boss in HR knew nothing about the software developed in-house that had no documentation. This software was the basis of call distribution in the department, and without it, calls simply couldn't be routed. News that calls weren't being distributed started to spread, and the manager's boss came to find out what was happening. He quickly realized what had occurred. I was called back to the conference room and asked to train a replacement, but I of course refused. The day ended, and I went home. The next morning, I arrived at work on time and was summoned again, offered my position back, and told to start distributing calls immediately. Of course, I refused the promotion, pointing to the key issues they voiced during my demotion, explaining that I needed to work on them before accepting a promotion. They were shocked and clearly irritated. They got angry, accused me of holding the company hostage, and stated they were going to sue me. According to my contract, I was now entitled to a lawyer, and the company had to pay for it. Several days passed, calls still weren't being distributed, and now they were trying to resolve issues via email and phone calls. Real chaos ensued. This added time to every call, parts orders were delayed, and the whole system started to collapse. Finally, a lawyer contacted me, informing me that he would represent my interests, that the company hired him, but he works only for me. He cannot communicate with the company without my knowledge, cannot do anything against my interests, and even though the company pays him, he reports to me. The lawyer explained that they couldn't force me to accept a promotion and couldn't fire me if I performed my duties under the employment contract, which consisted of simply coming to work on time, taking breaks at set times, and leaving. So that's what I did. This went on for a month until the situation reached a critical point. Repair times exceeded 2 weeks, and clients started canceling their service contracts due to service issues. Then they decided to demote me again, this time to logistics. The logistics manager was a good friend of mine and figured this was revenge for all the trouble, so he just told me to take a desk in the corner and do whatever I wanted. He wasn't going to punish me for their stupidity. We went to court. 2 days later, the judge